So the oyster business, also a fugazi. I'm talking about Graham Platner, the worst candidate ever, is about to win the primary in Maine, but will his candidacy actually last all the way to November? Let's talk about it.
Let's go.
Man, Democrats really screwed the pooch on this one, as they say. The old saying. I've actually never used before in my life. It's the first time I ever used it. And probably will be the last time I ever use it. But they really did. They really, really did on this. They thought they were getting this blue-collar guy, combat veteran, who was going to go into Maine, talk about being on the seas, on the Downeaster Alexa, getting oysters. And he was going to be the one to defeat Susan Collins and relate to the working man and the working woman. And it turns out he's a buffoon with a Nazi tattoo, a horrible record with women, possibly abusive with women, cheating on his wife with text messages. And then, of course, there's the whole fact that he claims 100% disability as a veteran, but has an oyster business, but doesn't really have an oyster business. It's more like an oyster hobby because he's not making any money. And his only customer is his mother, who has a restaurant, and his father paid for his house. And it turns out that he comes from money. And so the whole story of Graham Platner is completely falling apart. What's not falling apart is you're left with this guy with a Nazi tattoo who went on Reddit and said horrible things about women and also advocated for a communist revolution. And that's going to be your general election candidate going into November. But I honestly had to laugh, though, at this story about him, because the Democrats are all now pointing fingers, one after another. It's like, whose fault is this? Who's to blame for Graham Platner? Who do we blame first? Let's see, which story should we start with? How about the one from the Bulwark, The Platner Blame Game by Lauren Egan? So to begin with, who's at fault here? Like, who messed up? They're blaming this new political consulting firm created by some Democrats who helped get people like John Fetterman elected. And they said these guys did not properly vet him. Vetting a candidate is very important. You do a thorough background check on them. But then again, in their defense, I've done a lot of political campaigns in my life. I've vetted a lot of candidates. I've never once asked this following question. Do you have a Nazi tattoo? Do you have a tattoo that could resemble that of an SS concentration camp guard? Like, I don't put that on the form. When you have to check the boxes of all the things that could come out in a campaign, that's usually not one of the ones that I've ever typically asked. So I don't really necessarily fault these guys for that, except he did apparently take his shirt off at a wedding. Remember, one of the defenses was he went to a Jewish wedding or something. Somebody he knows is Jew. He's got a Jewish friend, and he went to a Jewish wedding, and he took his shirt off, and there's pictures of him. So there's pictures of the tattoo. So they could have found it if they looked hard enough. There's that. But admittedly, I never said to a candidate, did you cheat on your wife? No. Okay. Did you pay all your taxes? Yes. Okay. Do you have a concentration camp tattoo? Like the SS war. Do you have one of those? No? Okay, great. You're ready to run. Never had to do that before. So that part I get. Then there's this article from Time Magazine. Platner's, let's see if I can find the one. Where's that one? Oh yeah, the Democrats' Platner problem. The Democrats' Platner problem. And again, this is time.com trying to figure out who do we blame here. As we start blaming this, we blame the consultants. After now, he sexted women early in his marriage, accusations from an ex-girlfriend that he was physically threatening. There's that whole weird story about how he said if somebody broke into his house, he would rape them. And I don't know if that story is true or not. I don't know what to believe anymore about this guy, because just every day there's a new story that comes out. But we do know that the tattoo is there. Oh yeah, it was this fantasy the Democrats had of Mills being this hardworking blue-collar guy that was going to be the one to ride in. Adam Lee, a Mills supporter and Democrat fundraiser, said, but Graham has got such a huge lead, and here there are people that care about the stuff that he said he cares about, and people don't care about his past and his indiscretions, so it doesn't matter. You're not going to see a surprise today by Governor Janet Mills, who happens to still be on the ballot, swooping in and winning the day. So they're stuck with this guy. They're basically stuck. And Chuck Schumer has all but disappeared. He hasn't said a word about the race, all but disappeared. It's like, Chuck, where's Chuck Schumer? And I've said this repeatedly. These Democrats are all acting like they've never heard of Maine. It doesn't exist. They don't know where it is. They just have never heard of it, and that's the end of it, and it's just not a real place. Maine is just not a real place. So the blame game continues right now, but one man, is standing by his man, Graham Platner. And that, of course, is the guy who got him in the race in the first place, and part of the reason why Democrats, certain establishment Democrats, are trying to stop Platner, because when Platner wins today, not if, but when, according to the betting markets, which are never wrong on these things, he's got a 99% chance, it'll be Bernie's guy.
I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that Graham Platner is the next senator from the state of Maine.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, he's going to do everything he possibly can. But I'd like to talk about the Fugazi Oyster Company that he has. Fugazi Oysters. Now, look, there are a lot of Fugazi seafood products out there. You got to be careful with scallops, right? A lot of Fugazis. They're not real scallops. They're just cut up pieces of fish that look like scallops. They just cut them up into. You got to be careful about a lot of things like that. Crab. Big. You know, I'll go to a place, they go, oh, you got to try the crab cake. Minute I try it, I know this is not from Maryland. This is not from the Delaware Bay. It's not local crab. It's not blue crab. It's not even from like North Carolina has good blue crab, for example. Certain parts of the South have good blue crab. Louisiana's got good blue. It's from Thailand in a big freaking can, shipped all the way over here, and it's not blue crab. It's Fugazi crab, and sometimes it's not even crab at all. And I know that the minute I bite into a crab cake. That's right, because I'm a crab cake aficionado. I'm an expert, damn it. And there better not be a lot of green things in there. I don't want to see any red things in there. I don't want any filler. Just give me my crab cake, okay? Good. Now that I got that off my chest. You can't fake an oyster. It's either an oyster or it's not an oyster. But you can apparently fake an oyster business. That's right. Platner's living on the sea claim, dismantled by critics as financial documents paint a different picture. Platner's disclosures show he earned little from oyster farming and harbor duties versus his $4,800 a month in disability payments that he gets for being a disabled veteran. Now, look, I have no problem with disabled veterans earning what they're entitled to for their service. But the question is, if you claim you're 100% disabled, A, can you work? Is that legal? B, if you do work, is it actually a company if you're not making any money? Now, there's startups like this podcast, which we're making no money, but this is a startup. And lots of people start businesses and don't make any money for the first couple of years. Like, I get that. That's fine. That's America. And then, they hit it big. That's the American dream. If everybody gave up right away because they didn't make a profit in the first couple months, there would never be a business. Nobody would have ever started a business. There'd be no entrepreneurs. There'd be no success stories. That's the beautiful thing about America. But if it's been going on for several years and your only customer happens to be your mom, like if the only person listening to this podcast was Mama Zeoli, we would have a problem. I mean, I know we're only 5 months in, and 5 months in, 2 weeks of those 5 months, I wound up taking a little time off to get open heart surgery. That's actually Cooper calling right now to check on me and to report on the x-ray that I had earlier today. We'll find out what they said, because I'm going to let it go to voicemail, because I'd rather just find out later than find out now. So I'll let you know in the chat if I'm going back in. No, I'm kidding. It's totally routine stuff. But the point is, if 5 months in, only Mama Zeoli was listening. It was like, we did our count at the end of the week, and we're like, all right, Jared, look at our statistics. How do we do on YouTube? How do we do on social media? How do we do on all the downloads at Apple, Spotify, Odyssey, etc.? And he's like, you have one. Like what? 1,000? What? 100? What? No. One. And it's your mom.
And the IP address is coming from inside the house. Yeah.
It's Mama Zeoli, but only when she's here, because she doesn't know how to access the podcast when she's not here.
Because if she doesn't have Patrick to get to it, she doesn't know she can't get there. I get it.
That's it. When she was here, she's like, Patrick, can you get me your father's podcast? And then when she leaves and goes back to her house, then she can't figure out the app. So that actually it goes down to zero. It goes from 1 to 0. We get 100% drop off. I give 5 months in, that's where we are. I would say we should maybe reevaluate our strategy. I'm not saying we would necessarily give up, but we might want to reevaluate our strategy. Graham Platner's been in business now for years. Pulling himself as an oyster guy, but financial documents show that he brings in relatively little money from oyster farming, with reports suggesting that Platner receives a majority of his income through veterans' disability payments. My healthcare gave me my freedom. It gave me the freedom to take risks, to start a business, and to sink my intellect and my physicality into mastering the skills necessary to make a living on the seas. Now, to make a living, that requires you making money. That's how you make a living. Now, I mean, if you make a little extra cash, I mean, there's people that do side jobs and odd jobs, but it all cumulatively adds up to make a living. Like, I get that. That's fine. That's fine. To make a living on the seas would require that the bulk of your income has to come from that, I would assume. Otherwise, you're not making a living on the seas. It's contributing to you making a living along with your $4,800 a month in disability payments. His 2025 financial disclosures show that he listed other $5,001. Now, why $5,001? I don't know why the one needed to be on there, but it's on there. $5,001 as his annual income from farming oysters. The business itself is worth only between $50,000 and $100,000, which accounts for his boat, his lines, his anchors, and other farming equipment. All right, so now you think about an oyster boat, you think about all that is required to have an oyster boat and to go oystering. I have no idea what that entails. I don't claim to make my living on the sea, but all in, his business is only worth, with the equipment, with the assets, the physical depreciating assets, between $50,000 and $100,000. Now, if you can find a boat alone between $50,000 and $100,000, good luck. If it's a commercial fishing boat, A. B, even if it's a recreational boat these days, good luck. But that's obviously for another show. He earned $3,000 serving as the harbor master for Sullivan, Maine, a role that the Washington Free Beacon reported was largely clerical and where he was responsible for overseeing the 17 boat moorings on the small town's coast. Taken together, these sums are dwarfed by the $4,800 Platner says he receives through monthly disability payments, which he's legally entitled to such a sum owing to injuries he suffered while serving in the armed forces. Now, this is why he gets the disability payments, he says. He's got PTSD. He did combat in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I don't want to take that away from him. I think it'd be stupid of Republicans to try to take away from him his combat service. That typically does not work out well. He says he's got herniated disc, his shoulders are wrecked, his knees bother me, all of those things. Okay. But then how are you serving as an oyster farmer? How are you able to do that? If you're 100% disabled, and God bless you, man, if you served our country and you became 100% disabled, then how then are you able to do the physically taxing job of being an oysterman? And if you are, that's miraculous, but then maybe your claim of being 100% disabled is not accurate. And then you got to look into now the legality of saying that if you also have a business. So that's going to be an ethical issue that he has to deal with. I don't write the rules on this stuff, but when you go to apply for this stuff, 100% disabled means you can't work. I don't make those rules. Those are the rules. So he's got to answer for that in the general election. Secondly, if he is working as an oyster farmer and trying to be this blue collar guy, like when he gave an interview to the New Yorker last year, he called himself a small town oyster farmer. The only place that's buying his stuff is his mother's restaurant. A restaurant owned by Platner's mother is the only customer listed on his financial disclosures as purchasing oysters from him. Additionally, Platner's farm is located on a private island owned by his business partner's family, and he received a $200,000 loan from his father to purchase his home. Platner lies in this clip, said freelance journalist Maggie Jacobs. And she's a journalist, so she's not an operative, but a freelance journalist who investigated Platner's statement when he said he makes a living off the sea. Quote, from this freelance journalist, quote, he objectively does not. Let me say that again. He objectively does not. He is not on the Downeaster Alexa, okay? He is not trolling under the moonlight. He's not doing any of those. It's not. It's the Fugazi Oyster Company. Buddy, I love oyster farmers. You're not trolling George's Bank. You're pulling up traps in a protected 25 deep bay, said DC-based lawyer Patrick Brennan on social media. The Maine Democrat hasn't been shy about the fact that he received significant money from the federal government as disability compensation for the time he served as an infantryman. But he also did not mention he got a $200,000 loan from his father. So the hardworking blue-collar guy who actually comes from a life of privilege and was able to get money from his father to be able to buy his house. He tried to act like he was able to scrounge together all this money by being a hardworking blue-collar oyster guy because they created a fantasy candidate. And this is when you go back to those other articles we showed you from the Bulwark, from Time. There's a Politico one too. There's a whole bunch of them. I mean, we could put up 25 on the screen for you today. It's all Democrats pointing fingers at each other going, how did you come up with such a bad candidate? How did you do that? A, they didn't vet him properly because they didn't go down the road of Nazi tattoo, but they didn't look into his personal relationships. They didn't go down the rabbit hole of all this crazy stuff he said on the internet, all the crazy stuff he said on Reddit, all the times that he admitted that it was a Nazi tattoo, all the times he admitted that it was a tattoo of the SS and the prison guards at Dachau and the Auschwitz and some of the other concentration camps. They didn't properly vet him, that he wasn't really an oyster farmer. This is their guy. They thought they had the perfect candidate to connect with hardworking blue-collar workers. As Alexis McAdams from Fox News National put it, despite this, Platner seems to connect with working-class voters here in Maine. A dozen veterans stood up in the crowd to show support, and many people here say they are working 2 or more jobs just to scrape by. So now let me translate how that goes for you in the general election and why it is that come tomorrow, Democrats will be rallying around him and they're going to say the following. And this is the point that I made yesterday on Fox News.
Oh,
okay.
You're on Fox. That's cool.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't do a very good job of promoting it yesterday. I kind of dodged that.
You were doing like a talk show like the whole time. It was weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let the people know.
I didn't.
Honestly, whenever it's like, oh, Rich is doing Fox, I'm like, oh, well, there's no prep needed today because that's 80% of Rich's show. So like, we'll just find one other story to bounce around. And then yesterday, you were like churning through. You were doing topics. It was crazy.
It was crazy, right?
On a Fox News
like an
day,
actual talk show.
Yeah, I was like, oh, well, the first 20 minutes is just him and Dana Perino's off-camera interaction. No, you just you had your eyes on the prize, man. It was crazy.
Do you want to hear about me and Dana Perino's off-camera interactions?
No,
I can tell you about it.
Yeah, I assume Bill Hemmert had said something funny. I don't know. Yeah,
it was fun. I mean, it was like Dana gave me a hug. She said it was great to see me again because it's been a few weeks. Bill said it's great to have you back. Both Dana's assistant and Bill's assistant, so both Kate and Molly gave me hugs. The makeup guy, Javi, who does my hair, Javi gave me a hug. But Javi's always wanted to give me a hug.
Yeah,
I mean, that's Javi. You know what I mean? Like, he hugs everybody. Yeah, this is the way he is.
I assume they were all very nervous about the 2,000 subscribers, and they all had just sort of expected that you weren't going to make it, right? So they're all very excited that you pulled through. We all are, Rich.
They all. Bill Hemmert told me he made 19 fake accounts to make sure we hit 2,000 subscribers.
Signing up for Google's left and right. He and Mama Zeoli just trying to keep the numbers up. Yeah.
millmemmer@gmail.com. Raina Rorino at outlook.com.
We've been there. We've all been there.
So it was fun being back yesterday, but that was the point that I was trying to make on the show when I said, I don't even remember the point now. It doesn't matter, but something about how they were trying to stop him because Shannon Mills is still on the ticket. I think that's basically it. So
can I ask in defense of Graham Platner question? Right? Like you and I, we both like fine dining, right? And oftentimes we go to places and they're like, oh, this one chestnut is raised by hand by this little guy who's his whole family is they've raised and he carries it down. Maybe that's Graham Platner's. He doesn't have to lift heavy things because he's grabbing an oyster, and he takes that one oyster. That's why the business is so low value. That's why his mom's his only customer. He didn't have time. He takes that one oyster all the way to her restaurant, and it's just hand delivered to. When you order it, you go, I want a dozen oysters. Like it's gonna be 2 hours because he's got to go. Because he can't lift more than 3 or 4 because his arm, right? So he's maybe,
so disabled. You're saying
exactly. I'm saying maybe a little more benefit of the doubt. Rich, you and I, we've had those kind of oysters.
Here are your dozen oysters. Sorry, it took 3.5 hours to get them. Each handpicked.
Sweaty guy comes in with
and there's still sand all over them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And some of them are still on rocks. We just found it easier just to chisel the rock than chisel the oyster off the rock. You know,
100%. Yeah.
Here you go. I did this myself. Now I need more money.
every time, and this mom's just like, "Oh, Graham, you're doing such a good job. Thank you so much,
Graham. We love being your only customer, and sure, we'll pay you $5,000 for that dozen oysters." We'll happily write the check. Get the checkbook for my son.
Even at Buck-a-Shuck, he's not pulling in the revenue off those.
Buck-a-Shuck night for him, he literally makes $1. The restaurant makes $1 and that's it. They had one shuck and they call it a night. They're like, well, that's Buck-a-Shuck, everybody. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next Wednesday.
We sold the oyster.
Graham's going to go back and get us another dozen. We'll see you next week. Oh, it's terrible. So the Fugazi Oyster Company in the general election, Democrats, what they'll do is they'll rally around him and they'll say all of these allegations were tested in the primary and he survived and the people of Maine have spoken and he's the candidate now and blah, blah. And that's the point that I was trying to make yesterday, which is that one of two things is happening because this was the worst week of his campaign and he really doesn't even have an opponent because Janet Mills dropped out. So you would have expected him to have a worse week when he still had an active opponent in Janet Mills, the governor. This is all put out there, like the New York Times story about the women who came forward and said he was aggressive to me. It's all designed so that by the time you hear it again in the general, they go, we heard it and the guy still dominated in the primary. Now it's time to rally around him. People forgive him for his mistakes and blah, 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 blah. And that's going to be their strategy going into the general election. There's only an 11% chance, according to the Poly Markets, that he drops out of the race. I don't think he does. I don't see why he would. He's got the backing of Bernie Sanders, and soon he'll have the backing of all the Democrats. And they smell blood in the water because of the Iran war and gas prices and everything else. And I personally think he goes down. I think she wins. But that's now, not then. And that's my prediction now. I predict she holds a seat. Is there a chance they could swap him out? Sure, maybe, possibly. But then again, Democrats just tend to go with whatever candidate they're given, no matter how bad their past indiscretions are. So for the moment, they'll blame each other, but that's also part of the act of saying like, oh, we have a bad candidate here. But look, this bad candidate was still able to crush it in Tuesday's primary. So in some ways, I kind of feel like we're being set up here so that when he wins tonight, they can turn around and go, you see how he overcame all these obstacles? And he'll do it again in November. So just be careful about stories like that from the Bulwark and Time and some of these others. Are they intentionally designed to play a Jedi mind trick on you? That's the question. That's also the big story of the hour, brought to you by Dr. Mike Veneria, Veneria Dental. Go see him today for your perfect smile. VANARIA, VeneriaDental.com. Today on Capitol Hill, They had the Southern Poverty Law Center, the head of the SPLC, who, remember, they found out that they were paying people to remain active in the Klan, the KKK, which I didn't even know there still was a Klan. I really didn't. I thought the Klan was gone like Amway. Like, I don't know. I didn't think it was still a thing, but it turns out it's a thing. And probably only a thing because the Southern Poverty Law Center was paying people to be in there. Congressman Jim Jordan, chairman of the committee, the Oversight Committee, Judiciary Committee, went after and teed off on the head of the SPLC today. He's hot for these people, and I say good for Chairman Jordan, and here's a little of what he said.
Field Source 37, the guy at the Charlottesville rally, helped plan that rally, coordinate transportation there, was paid to attend. After the event where a lady was killed, the Southern Poverty Law Center almost tripled their income. $51 million to $133 million after they were coordinating the hate that took place at that crazy rally.
Amazing.
You run a scam, you become the standard, you don't get prosecuted, and you make a ton of money. They got $800 million assets, $700 million in an endowment. Such a deal.
So you create there was a lack of supply for hate and a lack of demand for hate in America. So they had to manufacture both, and they did, and they made money doing it, and they received all these contributions by doing it. The more hate they could manufacture, the more money they could make. It was a scam, and they reported on this scam years and years ago when they outed the guy who created the Southern Poverty Law Center, and there was a piece in New York Magazine about this. But people ignored it for years. And a lot of that money, that NGO money that went to the Southern Poverty Law Center, and what they did with it was to label groups and people as hateful. And some of those people wound up dying. So there were real consequences to labeling these groups as hate groups and extremists. One of those individuals is Charlie Kirk. And today, the head of the Southern Poverty Law Center was given the opportunity. Do you regret it? Do you apologize? You want to apologize to Charlie Kirk's family? Do you want to apologize to Turning Point USA? Huh?
Your organization has labeled Dr. King and Charlie Kirk and others. Do you regret that? Will you recant it? Or are you going to double down and say that these people, including the martyred Charlie Kirk, in fact, somehow deserve to be on your hate list for they're constantly talking about bringing people together, talking about the teachings of the Bible and the like?
Congressman Issa, as I said in my statement.
Now, wait a second. No. I heard your statement.
Well,
I only want an answer to your question in the 11 seconds left. Well, are you going to recant, yes or no? And if you're not going to, please don't tell me it's because now you're under charges. Your organization did it as much as 16 years ago. Will you take back any part of that, or is your hate list stand as your position of your organization as its head today?
The SPLC will continue to expose hate and extremism.
Okay, we'll take that as the list stand.
So no, they're not going to apologize for labeling Charlie Kirk as an extremist. They're not going to apologize for labeling Turning Point USA as a hate group, or any of the hate groups on their hate map. Libertarian groups, Christian groups, Jewish groups, none of those groups. Family, faith groups, Moms for Liberty, no. Pregnancy crisis centers, no. None of them will get an apology. As John Stossel put it, and as Reason.com put it, at this rate, everyone, except for extreme left-wing groups, was bound to be labeled a hate group at some point by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Let me tell you about Emmons Roofing and Siding, my great friends over there. I've used them in 2 different homes for over 12 years, and I love the work they do, and they keep producing for me every time. Most recently, remodeling our kids' bathroom. And they did some window repairs for me as well. They put in a beautiful new door for our basement, an entry door that is sturdy and will withstand all the elements and looks beautiful. They remodeled our room by putting in new, beautiful skylights. Those are just some of the remodeling projects that Emmons Roofing can do for you. And when it comes to your roof, unlike these big roof companies out there that scam everybody and say, you need a new roof. Oh yeah, when it's only a couple shingles. Emmons will always be honest with you. But if you do need a new roof, you'll get a lifetime warranty because they are Owens Corning Platinum certified. It's the highest standard that Owens Corning gives. And they only give it if you deserve it, and Emmons deserves it. In fact, they do spot checks to make sure that they're still worthy of the designation of being Owens Corning platinum certified. The CertainTeed siding that they use is made in America. The doors and windows are made in America, and the shingles are made in America too. So what are you waiting for? Reach out to the trusted local company that I use, emmonsroofing.com, emmonsroofing.com. Make sure you tell them I sent you. Let's turn to New Jersey for a second, shall we? Where it turns out, some good news, if you were wondering about this. It turns out that New Jersey, the food that's being served at Delaney Hall does, in fact, meet the standards of acceptability. That's right. Politico reporting, New Jersey health inspectors find Delaney Hall food satisfactory. Look, I got news for you. Nobody ever goes to prison for the food. Like, nobody chooses that life. The same thing with a hospital too. I'm just going to say, because I've not been to prison, knock on wood, but same thing with a hospital. It's like, I didn't choose open heart surgery so that I could get hospital food. Like, that's not why. I don't think most people go out there and commit crimes because they're like, I'm going to go away to prison, but the food is, they got this new Michelin star chef at Delaney. I tell you what, this guy makes some foie gras like nothing. I don't think it's actually from a goose or from I think it's a squirrel in the prison courtyard, or maybe it was a guy who got shivved, but nevertheless, like, nobody ever says that. Delaney Hall's food is satisfactory. If you get satisfactory in jail, in prison, you're doing good. Honestly, if you get satisfactory on most cruise ships these days, you're doing just fine. People, they don't go on all-inclusive vacations for the food, and they'll admit that. They don't. They go for the booze and the fact that it's all one price. And they're like, how was the food? It was satisfactory. It was fine. It was just fine, okay?
It's a pass-fail exam, right? Cooper, same. Like, it's pass-fail.
Yeah.
They passed.
They passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last time I was in the hospital, they were like, oh, it's free. I was like, ooh, your definition of free is not my definition of free.
When you call room service and they're like, the food will be to you within an hour, and you ordered ice cream and it comes melted, and you're like, well, this is satisfactory because I could still kind of lick the spoon and lick around the edges, and it's and it's not. I'm not going to die. It's not going to kill me.
Survive. Yep. I'm not. 100%.
But when Bridget and I made the decision to have the open heart surgery to fix the myocardial bridge, because, if you don't know what it was for, a myocardial bridge is when your heart muscles are crushing on your major artery. And for some people, it's not a problem. And for others like me, it was a major problem, cutting off blood flow and oxygen. And it was mimicking a heart attack. And it was going to cause all kinds of long-term problems if I didn't get it fixed. We met with two different surgeons. We sat down and made the decision. And I promise you, at no point was I like, because Donna works there in food service and she's a listener, and I think the food there is awesome. The cheesesteak is best you're going to get outside of Philly, Like,
I feel like you missed out, though. You should have done it like a wedding, right? Where you go to a different hospital, you try their food, you do a little sample, you and Bridget compare notes, right? And then you decide.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, exactly.
That is brilliant. See, I would say I missed my chance, except we all know I'm going to be back in at some point for something.
It's not your one Cooper trip.
So that's what I'm going to say next time to Maz. I'll be like, Maz, it's down to you and Virtua. I'm going to do a Jello tasting, and then
blind side by side.
So when I'm get off liquid, but I'm not yet to solid foods, I want to be able to make sure who has the best no sugar added Jello. I think it's a brilliant idea.
No, you don't want all that old tapioca, right? It's got to be fresh. It's got to have that.
Got to be fresh.
Exactly, real cream. Can't.
This Jello has a hint of lime. Well, that's because it's lime Jello. Oh, that's good. That's what I was looking for.
Am I getting a lemon zest?
So the food at Delaney Hall is satisfactory. So there you go. According to New Jersey food inspectors, is that helping the governor from having a tantrum? No, of course not. The governor, Mikie Sherrill, is having a tantrum over the Delaney Hall because this is an opportunity for her to stand up and scream about it. So first up is DHS Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen, who at any moment looks like he's going to rip somebody's head off. And he's fully capable of doing so as a former UFC guy. Like, if anyone can do it, it's him. If someone needs their head ripped off, I got a guy. It's the Secretary of Homeland Security, Mark Wayne Mullen. And here's what he said about Delaney Hall.
All right, there's a lot of attention being given to a detention center in New Jersey. Why? The left, sanctuary city politicians that are running this Democrat-controlled area will sit there and tell you it's because of the conditions of the facility. But it has nothing to do with the conditions of the facility. It has the fact that they want to release criminals back on the streets. It's probably not even what they believe is right, but they're running for re-election. They know this is what their base wants. Listen, these are individuals broke the law. That's why they're there. In this hand is just some of the individuals that we've arrested recently out of New Jersey. Guy from El Salvador, criminal history including homicide. A guy from Jamaica, homicide, robbery, and assault. Guy from Mexico, homicide. A guy from Peru is there for sexual offense against a child. But listen, these probably aren't real criminals, according to some of these, as the president says, Democrats. A guy from Spain selling cocaine, carrying a prohibited weapon, and aggravated assault. A guy from Guatemala, homicide and drug trafficking. A guy from Honduras, methamphetamines. By the way, he was manufacturing methamphetamine and drug trafficking. A guy from Jamaica again. Robbery, possession of a weapon, assault, and aggravated assault. But
well, you get the point.
Sanctuary
These are
City
bad
Democrats will tell you-
hombres. And, you know, if the food is satisfactory for them, that's satisfactory for me. And for all of us as taxpayers, I think, because we're the ones paying for this. These guys don't deserve, duck l'orange. I'm sorry, but you don't. You just don't. That's just not how it works. But Mikie Sherrill is not having it. So she got a tour of Delaney Hall. The food inspector said the food was satisfactory. The conditions were humane, but she still wasn't happy about it. And here's what she said.
Have you been in touch with Governor Hochul or Trump administration on what's going to happen with Newark Airport? Mark Wayne Mullen mentioned a possibility of limiting flights or international flights at the airport in connection to Delaney Hall.
That's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, to think that right now we have a situation, we're here in New Jersey, we are laser focused on taking care of people, to ensure that people inside Delaney Hall are treated with dignity, to ensure that people who want to exercise their constitutional rights have the ability to do so, to ensure that we are following the rule of law and public safety. And instead of being any help whatsoever in this regard, values of this state certainly, and historically this nation, we have these threats coming that they're going to shut down the international terminal in Newark right before the FIFA World Cup. It's completely ridiculous.
Couple things here. As a taxpayer in New Jersey, I wish you'd spend as much time caring about me. I wish you'd spend as much time caring about how unaffordable this state is as you do about how the conditions are at Delaney Hall. I really do. And I think I speak for everybody when I say that, but that's not going to get you elected president, because nobody's going to get you. You're not going to win the Democrat nomination if I'm happy, if you actually do a good job as governor, because that would mean you'd have to cut taxes. You'd have to actually slash government. You'd have to do the things that would bring down costs, and you're not willing to do those things. So instead, you have an opportunity here. As you run for president, Mikie Sherrill, your opportunity is to stand up to Trump and use Delaney Hall as your backdrop so that you can say, I am laser focused on the human rights of these people, standing up to the mean Trump administration to carve your way to a path to 2028. Because you're already bored with being governor in New Jersey and you don't give a blank about your constituents in New Jersey. Focus on us with at least as much as even 10% effort that you give to the people at Delaney Hall or the protesters at Delaney Hall, most of which who are violent rioters coming from outside of New Jersey who are arrested, and they've come from places like Portland, or they're whack job teachers like this. These are the kind of people that are in your kids' classroom, kids. This guy's a history teacher, I believe, in New Jersey, but I'm not 100% sure. Put up his video on TikTok about how this is, again, very similar to the Nazis.
I'm a history teacher, right? I know very well that when they set up a certain group of people as inhuman, as worthy of inhuman treatment, it is not long before it's someone else.
I'm about a half a mile away from Delaney Hall. That is where the police have pushed back members of the press, the public, other protesters. The protesters say they are demonstrating to bring awareness to alleged conditions inside of Delaney Hall. There's a group of teachers out here who joined the demonstrators. Take a listen to what they had to say.
The reports coming out of there have been horrifying, of physical violence, rotten food, unsafe living quarters.
I think a lot of times people think about what's going on and they're outraged, but they feel isolated. They feel like they're alone. So I think it's important for us to come out to things like this so that we can break that isolation.
What's your reaction to DHS saying that there is no wrongdoing here and that all of the requirements have been met inside Delaney Hall?
I say that I've spoken to the people who love those people in there. I've heard their voices through the phone, and I say those do not sound like people who are being treated like people.
You know what's amazing is that there are people in prison who are American citizens in prison, like Trenton State, for example. Trenton State is a maximum security facility, and there's violence in Trenton State. Prisoners fight each other. It's not a good place. If you've ever seen Oz, you know what I'm talking about. Prison isn't fun. Why aren't they protesting outside of those prisons? It's because they don't care. They don't actually really care about who's in there. They care about the fact that this is a cause they can use to stand up to the Trump administration. The people in Delaney Hall are criminals who've been accused of crimes. Many of them are facing due process, but many of them have already had their due process and they're now facing either deportation or transfer to a federal correctional facility, or I already said deportation. The point is, it's just that the left chooses which victim group they're going to stand up for. And they're never consistent in that. I mean, there's a mother right now in prison, but probably for some low-level drug offense, who can't even hug her own child. They're not staging protests out there. They don't give a damn about her. It's because this is about standing up to the Trump administration. That's what this is about. Like, there's an American citizen woman in a prison right now who cannot hold her children because prison rules don't allow it. They could be protesting that. They're not. They won't, because they don't care. It doesn't help move the needle. The needle is only about the Trump administration and making it out to be that they're like the Nazis. That's why that history teacher goes, I teach history. And I see when you single out a marginalized group. What's the marginalized group? People in this country illegally have committed crimes? How's it any different from people who are in this country legally who've committed crimes, who are in correctional facilities? Why aren't you out there protecting them? Why aren't you worried about the food conditions at Trenton State? Or at the county jailhouse? Why are you only worried about this place? Answer federal. Answer Trump. Wasn't built under the Trump administration. It was built under the Obama administration. And I never heard a peep out of you people when Obama was president or Biden was president. So why now? It wasn't like it was vacant during those years. So why now? How come you only seem to care about the people in Delaney Hall when Trump is president? Otherwise, you don't give a damn about the people in Delaney Hall. Otherwise, suddenly the quality of the food doesn't matter. If there's fights that break out in the shower or on the prison courtyard, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Because it's not about that, is it? Nope. It's about going after the Trump administration. Just like Count Grandstangelo Spartacus Booker and the Tears of Rage band, when he tries to equate this to the internment of Japanese American citizens during World War II.
Do they not think that the very things that were said about Japanese internment camps will be said about them? Will be said about their party? Will be said about their president? What do you say to them? How can they be encouraged to step forward and do what is clearly, this isn't a close call morally, but clearly do the right thing for not only these people, but for the United States Constitution and the guarantees that Scalia talked about when he was alive, that he said extended to immigrants here in America.
Or even your alleged Christian faith. How can there be such a constipation
so dramatic.
Of compassion, a poverty of empathy, that from the dictates of your faith to the laws in the Constitution, that you were willing to so violate your values and any shred of moral decency that our country proclaims.
But what do you get from them? Do they not care? Do they not care?
There is a reckoning coming. There is a reckoning coming. I talked to Clyburn. You want to talk about a man who has such moral authority in Congress from both sides of the aisle, who they tried in vain through the bullying of Donald Trump to eviscerate his congressional district. And he said to me right now, what he's seeing in South Carolina is his source.
Okay, let me jump in here because we're about to get tears of rage. We don't need any tears of rage. We've had enough tears of rage to last a lifetime. Delaney Hall started taking illegal immigrants in 2011 when Barack Obama was president, and did so up until 2017. And all the years that Barack Obama was president, I don't remember a single tear of rage from Cory Booker. And guess what? He was mayor of Newark before he became U.S. Senator. It was built as a correctional facility in 2000, but didn't start to hold federal immigrants until 2011. But Cory Booker did not shed a single tear of rage. This is all political theater. They bring up the Japanese, and right on cue, Patch.com, which writes local stories, writes this: raids by ICE bring devastating memories back to New Jersey Japanese Americans. More than 540,000 people were deported during the first year of the current administration, and they start bringing it back to World War II internment camps. They don't mention, of course, the guy who was president during that, Democrat President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. They don't mention the fact that the Japanese Americans were citizens of the United States of America and had no due process whatsoever when Roosevelt put them in concentration camps. And they don't mention in the article that all of these people at Delaney Hall either had their due process and are awaiting next steps, or are awaiting their due process. That is why it is called a detention facility. And due process is part of the process. Just like when you go to county jail, you may be freed at some point, or you might end up going to state prison or federal prison, depending on what the charge is. It's a transition facility, basically. Nobody ever spends their life there, but that's what happens. But all of this nonsense, all of the histrionics of this, 55% of Democrats would rather live outside of the United States. What I don't understand is why they don't. Like, you could go if you want to. I don't understand this. An Elon University YouGov America 250 national survey that was performed between April 30th and May 4th asked respondents, is there any other country on earth you would rather live than the United States? 55% of Democrats said yes. 38% of independents said yes, while only 10% of Republicans gave the same answer. 55% of Democrats said they would rather live in a different country. I just don't understand why they don't go. And a majority found that they align with socialism over capitalism. There are plenty of socialist countries they could go live in. Why don't they? That's what I don't understand. If you don't like America, why are you still here? I don't get it. Why? The answer is, because for a lot of these same people, they would much rather see if they can have a revolution, which is why Graham Platner is going to win today, because he's the kind of guy that could usher in a revolution. And that's what they really want. But that's really what this is. I mean, they want to transform America. They hate this country, but they don't want to leave it. They want to transform it into their communist Marxist image. That's the truth. That's why Platner is going to win today. That's the reality. Let me tell you about Dr. Mike Veneri and why he's such a great friend, why he's my dentist, why he is the master of dental implants. He's my buddy and my friend, and I think that you should reach out to him today and get an appointment, because if you don't, you're going to be missing out on a beautiful smile. A smile lights up the room. It can help you professionally, emotionally. It really can. And, it's also a health issue too. There's a link between your gum health and your gut microbiome, your heart health. All of these things matter. So you got to go see a dentist. If you have not seen a dentist, you got to stop putting it off. It's crucial to your health. Then choose the guy that the doctors go to. Choose the guy the other dentists send their patients to. If doctors and dentists are choosing Dr. Mike Veneria, there's a reason. He's the best. So you should go to him too. He's good enough for my family, and that's why Bridget went there and got a beautiful smile upgrade last year from Dr. Mike Veneria, and it's why Patrick, Claire, and Reagan all go to Dr. Mike Veneria for their beautiful smile, So please go see him today by going to venariadental.com, VANARIA, venariadental.com. All right, I promised the Exorcist story. I was also going to play Newman Price's songs, but I need a video since we're doing YouTube. So we'll have to, he needs to create an AI video for us. But in the meantime, I promised everybody the exorcism story, Jared. We've had this for a few days now. I don't know how you get this job of being the exorcist, but I want to be the exorcist. Don't you? Like, doesn't that sound like a cool job? If you had to choose a job?
It feels like too much pressure for me. Right? Like
you
that's
think
a
so?
result. It's a results based. Yeah, I need more ambiguity. I need to be able to explain why. Like I feel like the exorcism it went or didn't go, right? Like it's like a stock trader, right? You're in or you're out. I want more like I need more gray area. Like no, maybe we could try this. Let's massage. You know, like too much pressure for the exorcism.
You don't think you could BS and say that exorcism went flawlessly?
Well, I was like, you need a second one. Like that feels like that's on me. You know, it's more like your heart surgeon. That's a pass fail thing, right? They either you made it or you didn't make it. No, I can't handle that pressure. I need some soft sales in there.
Well, the Washington Archbishop has removed a priest as an exorcist after his comments on UFOs and demons. Robert McElroy removed a well-known priest as an exorcist of the Archdiocese of Washington, D.C. over comments that he made. And by the way, there's going to be more comments made after the new Steven Spielberg movie opens this week. He made public comments suggesting that UFO sightings were the work of demons. McElroy said the Archdiocese was cutting ties with the St. Michael Center for Spiritual Renewal, a Washington-based nonprofit headed by the priest, Monsignor Stephen Rossetti. I think this is just classic Italian bias, in my opinion, Jared. Classic Italian bias.
Catholic Church, well known for being anti-Italian. Just a long history.
Hey, we haven't picked an Italian for Pope in like a long time.
Well, first of all, it's because one of them like lasted 40 years, but like also like I'm so sorry, 90% of the bishop they all live in the Catholic Church, man. They got it out for those wops. I'll tell you that.
I'm telling you, they are not fans of ours. They're not fans of us. Our people, my people.
They show up there, they sit in the Vatican, they get all the good gabagool, and then they don't give you the Pope. Can you believe them?
He said, linking UFOs to demonic presence and the center's recent use of social media gravely undermine the church's very precise teachings on the devil, demons, and exorcism. There's a danger here, Rossetti said in a May 29th video posted on his Facebook page addressing UFO sightings and the existence of aliens. As an exorcist, I wanted to raise that danger, and that is that demons like to hide. They don't want us to know what they're doing because they're more effective when we don't realize it. They can kind of get into your head, and manipulate things in the world to influence us to do evil. It is my personal belief that probably many, if not most of these UFO sightings are in fact demons. Hey, listen, if the guy is an expert in demons, I'm going to listen to this guy. Who's this? Who's the Archbishop? The man's an expert. He's he's the freaking exorcist, dude, right? You'd trust that guy. I'm sorry, but this is a bad firing. I feel bad for the exorcist Rossetti.
He has as much experience with demons as you and I do, which is none. Okay? Like he's an expert is a real broad, given a wide berth to the term expert.
I personally believe
he's seen some weird stuff. I'm not saying he hasn't. I'm just saying his you act like it's like a science textbook that he wrote. You know what I mean? Like it's a lot of opinions in those judgments.
I just thought that was a safe job. Like I'm trying to look for my kids and give them a safe job to think about in the future. And I sat down the other day to Patrick and I was like, you should really think about being an exorcist.
Super job security. Yeah.
I said, I've never heard of an exorcist losing his job before. And that's just my worry for you, buddy, is I want you to be and if you're an exorcist, like I feel like you get to keep the job because even if it doesn't work out, there's always a sequel. That's why The Exorcist Part 2, The Exorcist Part 3, you know what I mean? Like,
but you act like they replaced the guy with like a chatbot. They didn't. They replaced him with another exorcist. It's still a safe job. It's AI didn't come for that one.
All right, so then we got to stick to old school mechanics and electricians. Fine. All right, so now I'm going to give my son and daughter that advice. According to the Wall Street Journal, the U.S. needs mechanics and electricians. Big business is spending to create some. Bloomberg Philanthropies launched a $90 million new program. Every morning, the chief executive of Ford Motor checks the same number. How big is the nationwide mechanic shortage at its dealerships? And lately, it's hovered around 5,000. Our buddy Steve Pacarduni, who is most likely in the chat right now. Of course, right now is not now. Right now is later, which was then, because the whole time-space continuum as we record the show and then do it, and I chat with you live, which is cool. People seem to like it. But Pac told me that, too. It's been tough, getting mechanics. My buddy, Mr. Mongo, Anthony Mongo, Mongo's Tire, great guy, great friend in Delran. Same thing. Trying to find good mechanics has been very, very tough. And so that's why they're actually now philanthropies are working on getting people to get into the business and going to high schoolers. And the thing about this is that if you go down in one of these roads of going down you would think AI would replace that. Like you'd almost think like AI would come in and replace that. Nope. Because they need actual human beings to be able to work on these jobs. And the construction industry, they need about 350,000 new net workers this year alone to meet demand, fueled in part by the skyrocketing need for electricians because of surging data center demand. So there's now a surging demand for contractors, electricians, mechanics. And who are they looking for? Gen Z, the very generation that has shown an interest in blue-collar careers, realizing that maybe that French lesbian art history degree isn't the best move. Like maybe being a philosophy major, not so. Philosophy minor, fine, all for it. That's great. That's fun around the campfire. Like you want that. But maybe as a major, maybe not that. And so now districts around the country, and this is fascinating, are revitalizing shop classes. I gotta look at this as a good sign that AI is not going to be the doom and gloom that we all think it is. Because if high schools and colleges are now revitalizing shop class, and this isn't the shop class that we had as kids where we would just make, like we make a birdhouse for our mom for Mother's Day. Like, oh, look, I made a bird, and it all falls apart. The glue comes, it all crumbles, you know what I mean? Like, no, this shop class is now getting huge grants from major corporations so that they can teach these kids and to train them 250,000 by 2035. So that young people will decide to go into careers in the skilled trades. And you've got Lowe's and Home Depot, the BlackRock Foundation. You've got all these other different major companies pouring money at this. And a lot of this is also strengthening union jobs as well. And union jobs are out there looking for apprenticeships, trying to get kids to join these trade jobs at an early age. I think that's a very good sign. I really do. And it's not necessarily that I think my son or daughter would make a great mechanic, electrician, or contractor or something like that. But I think for a lot of people, knowing that those jobs are not going away is huge, because if you can create a business and then hire people to do those jobs, you can make some serious cash. Like, I actually think that the most secure thing, at this point anyway, would be to create a company like Emmons. I mean, I use Emmons as a great example. Matt Kelly buys Emmons, Keith Emmons builds it, creates this beautiful company, Matt expands it, and you have all these people working for you. Like, that's a really smart way of life. I think it's a smart way to go, because there's always going to be a need for electricians. There's always going to be a need for people that can do things with their hands. And we have been told over and over and over again that AI was going to take away our jobs and take away the jobs for these blue collar workers. So I look at that as a really, really good sign. All right. But as far as exorcists go, not as safe a job anymore. Okay? Yes, Jared.
Just pee on your parade a tiny bit.
Yes, please do.
This is so important. that Bloomberg Philanthropy is spending $870 million less dollars than he spent to try to run for president. His $90 million sounds like a lot, but he spent $970 million to run for president. I'm just saying, Bloomberg, it's that important.
Well, maybe he doesn't have as much money because he spent it all running for president.
He spent $1 billion running for president. It wasn't $90 million here. That's an accounting error. That's a rounding error. That's what the guy who ran his campaign got off the points on his campaign from placing the ad buy. That's nothing.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Listen, things are kind of tough for me these days. I could do 90 million. Okay.
He pulls up his app. He's like checking. He's like, ooh. Yeah. Let's look at it. His bank account. He's like,
but imagine the guy who said yes at the 90 and didn't wait for the million, like Kramer with the lawsuit. And he's like, unlimited coffee for life. He's like, I'll take it. But Bloomberg's like, how's 90? Guys like, great. $90 would be huge. He's like, oh, I meant million. Oh, no. That's I knew that.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. Not 90,000. That'd be a crazy donation. We'll take 90 million. 90.
All right, that's the show. Thank you for listening. We'll give you $90 million if you hit the subscribe button. That's probably not true. Probably not. Yeah, no, that's not true. That's about as true as Graham Oyster having a successful oyster company. Graham Oyster, Graham Platner, his Fugazi Oyster Company. Oh, it's been a long day. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you for playing along. Thank you for subscribing. Hey, I read an article today and it said the best way to promote a podcast, believe it or not, is word of mouth. So you are our marketing team. So do us a favor. Tell your friends, really, please recommend this podcast to your friends. Leave a review for us. It'd be the best way you can help us grow. And I'm so grateful. We are grateful. We appreciate it very, very much. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you for listening.
Let's go.